Yards away from Liverpool Street's chain restaurants and looming skyscrapers, down a side street towards Spitalfields, is a portal to the East End of Old. This week's Hidden London, we're entering a relic of the Georgian city, or at least a fanciful version of it.
My name is Rupert Thomas and I'm the director of the Dennis Seevers House here in Spitalfields in East London. The house itself was built in 1724, so it's an amazing survival. But the atmosphere that you're doubtless soaking up at the moment was really created by a man called Dennis Seevers much later on in the 1980s. And it's Dennis we celebrate here, and it's him who gives his name to the house as we know it today.
The young Dennis Seevers relocated from sunny California in 1967 in pursuit of his dreams of English nostalgia and a new life as an openly gay man. Following a stint running horse-drawn carriage tours around London, he purchased the rundown terrace house at 16 Folgate Street for £18,000 in 1979, preserving it from the widespread demolitions of the 1980s.
The house became his palette, and he would take you through the history of London, of the Huguenots, of the 18th century and the 19th century via a family called the Jervises, who he made up. They were completely fictional, so you chart really the whole of the 18th and 19th century via one family, and you see how that family made its money, lost its money, and ended up living in one room in this very sizable house in Spitalfields. But Dennis lived alongside them here in rooms which were heated by fires, lit by candles, and he lived basically as a Georgian, because Dennis was very interested in both the beauty, the lavishness, the elegance and the refinement of the 18th century, but also the squalor, the dirt, the smell, the noise that would have really been part of life as well. And that's what he was trying to convey on the tours he gave here, that you would leave somehow changed. You would actually step back into the past and leave here feeling somehow viscerally like you had been transported back 200 years.
Lit entirely by candles and coal fires, the rooms are what Seevers called a collection of atmospheres, arranged as though someone has just left and you, an interloper from the future, have stumbled in. His tours soon became a hit with creatives in the area and beyond.
And it became a sort of go-to installation. So David Hockney, for example, came here quite early on and said it was one of the 5 most extraordinary experiences that you could have in a kind of operatic sense.
Operatic and theatrical are good words to describe the house. This is not a historically accurate recreation by any means.
So Dennis was very, very interested obviously in what the house looked like, but he was not a slave to authenticity. What he wanted to do was create rooms and environments that felt correct. If they weren't correct, it really didn't matter to him. It's theatre, really. It's theatrical in both its sensibility, but also in the way it's done. You don't really notice that because it's done with such kind of conviction and such kind of chutzpah. You sort of believe it, and so the whole thing adds up. The whole house adds up to more than the sum of its parts, because what you sense is an atmosphere which takes you back really to the 1700s much more effectively than if it was laboriously done and scraped and done perfectly.
Seevers died of cancer in 1999, 2 days after Christmas, aged 51. He'd lived with an HIV diagnosis since 1984. But his legacy lives on at 16 Folgate Street, and you can take it all in with a tour of this unique property.
The house is open pretty much every weekend. We sometimes do Fridays. Our incredibly busy time when we're open the whole time is at Christmas, but for the rest of the year it's mainly the weekends. And you simply go online, you can book a ticket, they're time tickets. Because of the fragile nature of the house, we can only have 32 people at a time in the house. But that does mean that you can experience it properly.
For Seevers, experiencing it properly meant complete silence. Now visitors can talk and ask questions, but quiet enjoyment is still encouraged.
It breaks the spell. If people talk too much, it sort of just becomes a really rather ordinary place, and it's a really extraordinary place. And part of the extraordinariness of it is that it's silent, it's dark, it's mysterious, it has an intense atmosphere that some people find slightly overwhelming actually. That was really part of his design. He wanted you to be disconcerted. He wanted you to feel out of your own time. And we still managed to do that.